Hello, hello. We're back again for another episode of Let's Talk. Today we have the privilege of having the distinguished former railroad commissioner for the state of Texas, Michael Williams, with us today. And Michael, it's good to have you with us today. I'm really glad I was able to get you on. This is an interview I've been looking forward to. Uh, as you know, we just have a casual conversation. And a lot of times it's not possible for some people to have the opportunity or you to have the opportunity to just have a regular conversation with just regular folks, big, maybe even just by sheer numbers. So I'm glad that you're here. Want to kind of talk a little bit. You've spent a lot of your career involved in politics. And, I had the privilege of taking your portrait to hang in the state capitol. And during that time, that was the first time I think that you and I really had conversation. And we talked quite a bit about a lot of different things. And one of the things that we talked about is the political climate in, I wouldn't say just in the state, but in the country today. And I was curious of what you think about what the body politic is now versus when you started in politics.
Well, first of all, David, it is a pleasure to spend some time with you. And there's no doubt that we had a very vibrant conversation when you took my portrait. Um, Let me just get straight to the point. The body politic, we're in trouble. The country is in trouble. And I am concerned about my country. I do my morning prayers, and when I do my morning prayers, I pray for my country. My country has lost a sense of community and a sense of civility and a sense of how to have a conversation with each other where we can have a conversation and we can disagree,
Right.
but not be ignorant, as an old friend of mine used to say. And so I'm concerned about my country. We can get back, but it's going to take real work to do so.
Right.
Um, so I struggle with where we are right
Hmm.
now.
So,
And go ahead, go ahead.
so I know that any organization is made up of individuals. Any group of people is made up of individuals. So, do you think that the politician of today is different than the politician, from the past, or has the ideology changed? Or is it the means and methods to achieve a goal, have they changed?
Well, both have changed. I came into the political realm or the political game, if you want to call it that, 40 years ago, and we came in it because we wanted to solve the real problems that real people
Hmm.
had. And today's politicians or today's political realm is different than it was when I came into the game.
Hmm.
But let me make sure your readers, listeners, whatever know. I am a conservative Republican. That's what I am,
Okay.
and I don't make any apologies for that. That's what I am.
Right.
That ain't what the boy. I almost said something. That ain't what the shit. That ain't. I don't know these mugs today. I
Right.
don't know these mugs. Okay, these some different kind of mugs right now. And when I came into the game, I believed in some things. I believed in small government and expanded individual liberty and protecting national defense and low taxes. And I don't know what we're working with today.
Right.
I don't know what they're working with. So we just have to win back what's right,
But we have
and
to
that's gonna
have
take a while.
some clear-cut goals and objectives, don't you think? And then have some consensus in that regard.
It is you gotta have clear cut goals and objectives, but at the same time, you have to have a principled center about who you are
Right.
and why you are and why you doing what you're doing.
Right.
And it has to be something other than I don't like those guys.
Right.
And I just want to beat those guys.
Right.
The the I mean Trump, I didn't want to use his name because I can't stand the man. But Trump totally I don't know how you run your program, but I'm getting ready to screw it up. Trump totally effed up the Republican Party. And he effed it up in a way where it's just simply about screwing up the other guy.
Right.
And what I said, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican.
Right.
I gave the nominating speech for George W. Bush to be president of the United States twice.
Right.
I'm the person who formally nominated John McCain to be president of the United States when he ran against President Obama. I'm a Republican.
Right.
The only African American in the history of Texas to be elected statewide in the executive branch. Can't stand that dude who was the 45th president of the United States.
Right.
Because there's standards, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ask your question. I'm sorry. I don't want to.
No,
Go ahead and ask your question.
it kind of a lot of time people have rules in life to not discuss religion and politics. And on this particular program, I'm not putting forth any particular ideology. I'm not putting forth any political stance or any religious belief. I just want to have a conversation. And I'm having an honest conversation with you, and I appreciate you being honest. I'm not asking you to be anybody that you're not. So the questions that I ask are just somewhat general. So I mean, as far as politics in general, do you think that our 45th president was such an influence that politics in America can be seen as before Trump and after Trump?
David, he was a defining moment. And that's a good and a bad thing. He was a defining moment in the sense that before Donald J. Trump, I do think that electeds focused on solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that after Donald J. Trump, electeds have focused on beating the enemy, however you define who the enemy is.
Right.
I do think that before Donald J. Trump, we focused on trying to provide solutions for Americans that solve problems that Americans are having.
Right. Michael,
I do think that after Donald J. Trump, electeds focus on just putting their thumb down, their hammer down, their foot down on the enemy.
So
He fundamentally changed.
right. Well, I'm sitting at it, looking at it from a lot of different directions. One of those directions is he has appealed to a large portion of the citizenry of the United States. What do you feel that appeal is? Because you can't discount.
Well, no, David. The appeal. There's no doubt that there was a large underpinning of frustration that Americans had about how American government was functioning.
Right.
And he realized and tapped into that.
Okay.
He realized and tapped into the fact that America wasn't satisfying a large group of people. That group of people being mostly folks who are 60 and above, my age, 60 and above, who are white. I'm not, obviously not white, who believed that the country was changing in front of them in a way that they did not like. And he recognized that. And he said, oh, shit. Let's see, there I go. But, I may say some other words that you may not want to hear. But anyway, he said, oh, shit, I'm going to tap into that.
Right.
America was changing. America's a different place. If you are white, if you are 60 and above, America really is a different place today.
Right.
And it's going to be a different place tomorrow.
Right.
Than you might want it to be. And those folks were saying, oh my goodness, can't have that kind of America.
Right.
Okay. They were losing power.
Mm-hmm.
As more Black and brown folk and younger folk and other categories of folk come into power, they're saying, oh, no, wrong answer. We don't want those folks running this world.
Right.
But they are.
Right.
And they're gonna.
So how did the transformation into folks saying that the Republican Party is Trump's party? I mean, is there no other leadership or individual or ideology that can bring about some type of comfort to that community without it being a complete disruption of everything?
Well, at the moment, Donald J. Trump is the biggest dog in the yard.
Right.
And I wish I could answer your question to say that there's another big dog that can come in the yard and fight with DJT.
Right.
But the reality is that Donald Trump is the biggest dog in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And at least for a while, he's going to run the game.
Okay.
And maybe there'll be a bigger dog that will come at some time.
But I mean, it just baffles me, because I'm a true believer that people who come into power are in power because people have given their power over to them.
Okay.
So I am, it's said that, that we're thinking people, that human beings thinking people, but I truly believe that we're emotional people who sometimes think. And I think Trump is appealing to a bunch of emotions that may not be truthful or factual. It may not even be consistent with what a lot of people really believe, but on that emotional side, they've connected with it.
They have. And that's why I said DJT is the biggest dog in the yard.
Okay.
And there is no dog bigger than DJT.
Right.
I wish there was. I wish there was. But at the moment, he's the biggest dog in the yard.
Right.
And there may become, hopefully there will become a bigger dog. You know, I try to be honest.
Right.
And being honest, I wish there will become a bigger dog in the yard. But right now, Donald J. Trump is the biggest dog in the yard.
Okay. So with your experience that you've had in politics, if there were a young person aspiring to politics who's thinking about, getting into the arena in a way to affect some type of change, what would be your advice to them coming into politics?
Well, I think first, get to an understanding of who you are. What matters to you? What's important to you as a man or a woman? What issues are the most important to you? Then understand who are the mentors, the potential mentors that you need to reach out to, the coaches that you need to have to help you develop your career. Then ask them how to help you fully engage and develop and move forward in your career path.
Right. I think that's
So
really important what you're saying about them knowing themselves and what they believe in and who they are.
that's
But
right.
I think even more important is for them to be able to stick with that as they move into this environment that may not be receptive to that, to who they are, to who they really are. I know we have to grow, we have to adapt, we have to have some interactions with others to come together and make change, but that doesn't mean that you have to give up who you are at your base, at your foundation, your root beliefs in doing that. Would you agree?
It totally means the latter part. You don't give up who you are, what your base. And that's why I started off with know who you are.
Right.
Know who you are. And I'd like to think, evidence may prove differently, but I'd like to think that I started off with knowing who I was.
Right.
And I'd like to think that I haven't ended my life, but when my life is, I'd like to think that when it is, it will say he started here,
Right.
he ended there, and they were the same.
Right.
That's what I'd like to think.
I understand. Now, the other thing that I'd like to discuss with you, you've been involved in education in the state of Texas for some time.
Yes, sir.
A great portion of your career. Where do you see education in the state of Texas right now?
We're not doing well. We're not. I was commissioner for 4 years, but we're not doing well. And as I tell folks, I'm a lawyer by education and training. I'm not an educator,
Right.
but I was the commissioner, and we have a good ways to go as a state in making sure that our kids get an exemplary education.
Right.
The early part of education is from the home. It's from mom conceives to mom has a baby during that period of time, and then there's a couple of years, and then mom passes kids off to schools. We're not doing a good job.
Right.
And part of it is we're not making, as a state, the right investment in kids. And part of it is that part from conception to passing off the child to school.
Right.
Moms and dads and grandmas and others aren't doing the right investment. We've got to do a much, much, much better job.
Right.
The other thing we need to do is that we're waiting too late, in my opinion, to get youngsters significant learning. We wait until they get to college. Sometimes we wait till they get to high school to get significant investment. We need to pass that stuff down so they get it in earlier years.
What do you mean by significant education?
David, here's what I'm looking at. We think that a youngster should learn geometry and algebra 2 and whatever when they are sophomores, juniors in high school.
Right.
Why? They can learn that stuff as 7th and 8th graders.
Right.
There's nothing special about it. So let's drive that learning downward so they can learn it earlier.
Right.
Okay. We think that getting a high school diploma and then later collegiate diploma is the real deal. But what we forget is what they also need to know is networking. They also need to know how to they need to develop a relationship with a mentor. They need to have a high special internship relationship.
Right.
Okay. They need that earlier.
Right.
In addition to getting the freaking high school diploma or the collegiate diploma.
Right.
And so we forget that there are other things that you need in order to be successful.
Right. I
My life experience, when I look back at it, was not simply because I got a degree from Robert E. Lee High School or from the University of Southern Cal, even though I love Southern Cal. But it's because of the relationships that I had.
Right. Yeah. Right. You know, as you were explaining that, there are some things that I really agree with you on, that education does start at home, with the parents, and that I also believe, my personal belief is there should never be a handoff. There should always be active participation on the part of the parent in a child's education, even if it's just, they don't have to know everything the child is learning, but they do have to see how the child is developing. What kind of person they're turning into. What are they getting out of their education? What is their school? How is their school experience changing what we've taught them at home? You know what I'm saying? What is it they're bringing? Not what they're taking. We've got to be conscious of what they're taking into the school, because that affects the school environment, but also be conscious of what they're bringing home from school. as far as their personal development. And, education as it stands now, I guess my biggest issue right now, I got to be of an age, and in today, I see all the parts of education that I missed out on. And most of them involved, most of it involves history. Most of it involves who I am, where I came from. And I'm not sitting up, I'm not talking about Africa this, Africa that, but the true history of this country and what all of us, all the different cultures have contributed, and that being portrayed truthfully. So I guess that leads me to the question about the critical race theory. And maybe my understanding of it is wrong. What is your understanding of it? I mean, what is the definition of that?
Let's be real clear. Let's
Okay.
be real clear. Critical race theory is a legal theory about the structure of America. I'm not going to get into whether I agree with it or not, okay?
Right, I understand.
But it is a legal construct about how America functions. It is taught in law school.
Okay.
And it's taught in upper level college courses.
Okay.
It is not taught in K-12.
Right.
So anybody who suggests that we teach CRT in elementary school or middle school or high school, they full of shit.
Right. So I guess, like I'm saying again, you said that it is a legal ideology.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but there's so many people batting the words around and deciding that they're against something or for something that they don't really understand.
And that's politics in
And life,
2022.
right? And life. Okay.
That's politics in 2022.
But
nobody teaches CRT in elementary school. It doesn't happen.
right. Okay. So it has nothing to do with history and historical perspectives?
Oh, no. Stop. CRT lays out a foundation about how race and racism has related to systems, whether they be systems in education, police, and a range of things. So it relates to that, no doubt.
Okay.
But we don't teach it in elementary school.
No,
we don't
no.
teach CRT.
I don't believe that we should teach. I believe that we should teach information to our children that is age appropriate. That's the way I feel about it. There's ways to state a position without being untruthful about exactly what happened. There's ways to set the groundwork in elementary education for the understanding of how all cultures have contributed.
Okay.
Also, as a child gets into the middle school and the high school, I think more and more, I think that foundation should be built on to be more truthful than we've been in the past about the history of this country.
David,
I'm not saying you teaching your kids this is a bad country. That's the direction that some people are going with. What I'm asking is, or what I'm saying is, I think that it's beneficial to all for the truth be told. When they were talking about taking down all the statues, I was against that. I did because that's trying to cover up part of history. But I'm saying, I would say statue stays, a plaque that tells the truth and gives actual events be attached to that.
Yeah, what's interesting when you talk about taking down statues, as you know, I went to a high school, and the name of the high school is Robert E. Lee High School.
Mm-hmm.
I was strongly opposed to the continuation of the name of that high school being Robert E. Lee High School.
Okay.
I wanted the name to come down.
Right.
I am proud that that name has now been changed to Legacy High School.
Right.
What we can do with some history, we should not forget it, but we don't have to celebrate it. Okay.
Right. Can I ask you a question right quick before you move forward?
And to have that school named Robert Lee and continue to be Robert Lee is to celebrate some dumb stuff from our history.
Right. Can I ask you this?
So what I want to do, we can commemorate it. Okay. Some stuff, put it in the museum, right, and remember it.
Right.
But I don't have to celebrate the dumb shit.
Right. Understand. So do you think that the significance of the changing of the school's name needs to be acknowledged?
Oh, without a doubt.
That this was a milestone in the development of this country. That
without a doubt
decided that they wanted that to be different.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
And man, my community, where I used to live, didn't truly jump up and down and clap their hands and celebrate the changing of the name, but they did it a little bit, and I appreciate the little bit that they did.
Right. Okay. So now, as I had a young lady on my first installment of the show who was a teacher, and she was telling some of her experience with young people. She teaches high school, and was saying something similar to what you were talking about, adding some things to the curriculum that fit today. We've had so many people who have been successful who didn't end up attaining a college degree. And we have so many opportunities, because of the internet allowing so many different businesses and so many different opportunities for somebody to be able to create a good living for themselves. Do you think that those things should be taught in school also, in the high school level?
Educators have a really, really tough task. They have to teach what we call the A, B's, and C's.
Right.
And now we want to add on to them the responsibility of teaching D, E's, and F's. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there's a need to teach kids more than what we thought should have been in the curricula to teach them.
Right.
Let me give you an example. When I see a high school kid and we shake hands, and the kid looks down at the floor,
right,
and doesn't give me a good firm handshake, somewhere along that kid's life, that kid should have learned how to shake a hand.
Right. There's some
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Is that the responsibility of K through 12? No. Maybe not. The kid needs to know that.
Right.
When that kid wants to get an internship, as you mentioned earlier, and that kid doesn't know how to send me an email
Right.
to properly request an email, internship,
Right.
that kid should have learned that somewhere.
Right. Right.
And is that the responsibility of K through 12? Maybe not. But the kid needed to have learned it. Okay.
Right.
So whose responsibility is it? Is it K through 12's? Or is it mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and Uncle Booker and Auntie? I'm not sure.
Right.
But the kid should have learned it.
Right.
And we are doing that child a disservice if we don't teach that child how to shake a hand
Very much
and
so.
how to send an email.
Right. Right. I mean, a lot of kids now, they lack that foundation, those fundamentals, the social graces,
Yes, sir.
and when they get in certain arenas, their self-esteem is so low, they don't think that they belong, and they can't look you in the eye, because they feel like there's something lacking in them. And yes, I agree with you that we and society at large, not necessarily the school district. I'm not trying to put anything on school, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the parents, but I think it's important in our society that, like you say, a child gets those fundamentals.
No doubt.
I really
No doubt.
do.
We had at the university a an offer from one of the largest accounting firms in the world. And in their Dallas office, they offered us 12, I think it was, internships.
Right.
And we could not get more than 2 of our students. We are a university that's 87% brown and black.
Mm-hmm.
And we could not get more than 2 of our students to apply for the internship.
Right.
Because they were intimidated by going downtown Dallas.
Yeah.
And working with folks who did not look like them.
Right. Well,
okay.
Even though that's a reality, I feel like we should not accept that reality without changing.
Damn Skippy, we should not accept that reality.
I mean, I'm a true believer in getting to the root of the problem and finding a solution. So what you're saying today, I hope that it inspires somebody to help fill some of those gaps, have some of those conversations, and lay some of the foundation, whether it's a group of parents, a group of community leaders, but not accept that is a fact of life in 2022. Right. That should not be a fact of life. And if it happens that way to you this year, it should never happen again another year. So I ask you, what you would say to a politician. What would you say to a teacher coming into the arena of teaching our children?
I think I first have to be honest and say your job is the toughest job there is in America.
Right.
And at present, we don't support you the way we should. And hopefully we'll get around to doing so. But the role that you play as an educator is the most valuable role there is in America.
Right.
And that's teaching and training up the next generation of Americans.
Right.
And hopefully over time, we as a political community will come to an understanding and appreciation for how freaking valuable you are.
Yeah.
We don't do so right now. There's no, I can't lie about that.
Right.
We don't do so right now,
Right.
but maybe we will.
I would go a little bit further and offer them the same advice that you offered the politician, to know who they are, to know what they bring to the table, to know
Yeah.
what they're about, and be their authentic self as they come into the job, so that they can affect it in a way that's beneficial, and at the same time be an example for the children to be their authentic selves, to find what their identity is and what they believe in, and how to protect themselves, how to fight for what they believe in, and how to acquire that foundation that we so much needed. Because we have to put part of the responsibility on our children. We have to inspire them, but part of the responsibility is still theirs, especially as they get to be teenagers and get to be people going out into the community. They need to take on some of that responsibility. So that's just my 2 cents on that particular deal.
That'll work.
Yeah.
That'll work. That'll
Okay.
work.
So let's see. I have to entrust the power to you to make it all better. How would you do that?
Here's what we do. We keep on listening to others, and we keep on learning from others. And between listening and learning, we try to invest our time and our energy in the future, and we go from there.
Right. Right. Well, Commissioner Williams, I really do appreciate you being with me today. This has been a pleasure. The conversation has gone here, there, and everywhere. A great thing, a great thing. I appreciate you being honest with us. I appreciate you being who you are. You're a person that, on certain days, there are people who have to step up and take that responsibility. And with that responsibility, that means they have to show up. And I want to thank you for the days you showed up. I want to thank you for today showing up. It's been a great conversation, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
The man said, "Shake it, nugget, crack, rap." I'm out.
Have a
Take
good
care,
one.
young brother.